what was good about my upbringing is all the male role models in my life were people that I just wouldn't ever want to be like.
What are your thoughts on people like that took advantage of the drug scene?
All the people I know that have ever gone down that path, whether it's addiction, whether it's selling drugs, whether it's crime, they don't ever have a happy ending.
So welcome back to the Next Level podcast. On today's episode, we have none other than Mr. Terry Stone. He's a British actor, film producer, so films such as Rise of the Footsoldier, Shank, Anotherhood. I mean, there's so many to list off. I mean, we're going to be talking about him anyway today. For any of you watching that watch EastEnders, he's been on that. Again, he's partnered with another business here, NE10 Vodka. We're going to be talking about that, so I'll put the link to the description below. Garage Nation and One Nation. He was the founder of that. So if you went to an event, drum and bass or garage, Terry put the event on. So we're going to be deep diving into that. But as you know, what I like to do with all of my guests is discover who the individual really is. So strap yourselves in because this is really going to be an exciting one. Your first probably was 53 grand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 53 grand. Imagine if you kept
Good old
it.
days.
Yeah. Imagine if you kept hold of that.
It'll be 350 now.
Fucking
Good old days.
shit. So take me back to when you was a kid in Brixton. Them sort of times. What was it like growing up around that way?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've sort of been around South London. I mean, I was really young, so I don't remember anything really. I was like a baby, and then I think from there we moved to Kingston, then we moved to Putney, and then so we sort of moved around, sort of Putney, Kingston, Brixton, and then Mum and Dad my dad used to work for Tesco, so his job was, he was like a regional manager, so he had to bounce around, but then he also had a store that he would sort of live above and manage. You know, it's a weird model, but it was good for us because we obviously had a free house, whatever. And then we got a council, for some reason we had to relocate to Bracknell, and then we got council house, and I mean, my dad had the right to buy that. He could have got it for 11 grand. You know, in the good old days.
Yeah. 11 grand.
But he didn't do it. And we lived there. Then my mum and dad split up with him. We moved away from Bracknell to Camberley. And so it was, I mean, you know, I think people talk about their childhoods, and, you know, I didn't have a particularly good or particularly bad one. You know, it was just, you know, I think however you get brought up and whatever your experiences are growing up becomes your reality. So, you know, you never really, you know, we didn't really go on foreign holidays, so I didn't look around and think, oh, you know, why aren't we going on foreign? We just didn't go on foreign holidays. So, you know, we always holidayed in the UK. We always, you know, had food. My dad was a big drinker, and I think looking back on it now, he definitely had an alcohol addiction, you know, and I think, you know, it frustrated me because I could see it. And, you know, some kids are brought up in an environment where their parents violent or takes drugs or drinks or behaves badly, and then they end up becoming the same. But I always used to look at my dad and just think, this is fucking stupid. You know, you're sitting there, you know, on a Saturday drinking a bottle of fucking whiskey. You know, what is wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? I didn't think there was anything cool about it. So I think I saw how he was fucking his life up. And you know, I've always liked to have a drink, but I've never drunk to excess. And obviously once I've had a few and I feel merry, that's when I switch off. Do you know what I mean? Occasionally if I'm out on a big night, I might drink a bit more, but I never get to the point where I'm up for 3 days drinking, or I go on a bender and you don't see me for a week and I've drunk 10 bottles of vodka. You know, that's not, that's probably good, because obviously being involved with a vodka company, if I did have a drinking problem, it could actually make it a lot worse.
Make it a lot worse, wouldn't it? Yeah, definitely. I think I always like to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Because there's normally a point that sort of defines the individual. I'm going to take you back to a point I've obviously done a bit of research on you. When you was in school, you told your careers officer what you wanted to do. Yeah. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean,
more so the head teacher.
I mean, I think when you was talking earlier about a moment defining you, you know, I think, you know, and there's a lot of things that at the time I didn't like in my childhood, But there's a lot of things that I look back on it, I think actually that was actually good, because if you did something wrong, you would get beaten up. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like you've been very naughty, you mustn't do that again. It was like you're getting a backhand or you're going to get a kick in it, depending on how bad it was. You know what I mean? So I think when you're brought up in that environment, you tend to behave more than if you're given the free rein to basically do whatever you like. And I think obviously the discipline now, whether it's the police, whether it's parenting, whether it's teaching, whether it, the respect and the it's all gone. And I think that isn't good for the world, because I think people then just start saying, okay, I'm just going to behave badly, and there's no discipline. And I think you can see that now, the way the world's gone. There's no discipline. Nobody cares. No one's scared of getting in trouble. No one cares about authority, and that isn't good, in my opinion. Right? So people would say, when you was naughty and your dad beat you or kicked you or whatever, or punched you, that was really bad. But then when mum and dad split up and then she met somebody else, he was even worse. So it was just a thing. Do you know what I mean? I think if you grow up on a council estate and you're around people that like drinking, and and they're working class, there was lots of fights, and then obviously there was domestic abuse. My mum got it from my dad and from people she was with, and vice versa. So I think when I grew up, when I come home, I didn't have someone saying to me, "If you've done your homework, you've got to get your exams, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to work hard." Just come home, fuck about, don't do anything. Nobody says anything. So I was just like, sweet, And obviously as a kid, you're getting this extreme discipline. You can't do this, you can't do that. But then on the other side, it's like, nobody checked, have I done my homework? Should I go to university? Should I do this? Should I do that? Nobody really sort of, and because my mum worked in an office and my dad worked in a retailer, that was their jobs for life. They didn't really have any ambition. I mean, my mum wanted to own her own home, but my dad didn't really care. All he wanted to do was just get pissed and smoke and exist. And that just seemed to be his life, up to when he died. But when you look at most people look around. So all of these things that happened to me, at school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't get any qualifications. And I remember sitting in a room, and back then, I don't know if they still do it now, but there was a careers officer, and they'd say, "Oh, hi, what do you want to do? What do you want to go into?" And I was like, "I don't know. I like boxing. I wouldn't mind being a boxing manager or a boxing promoter." And the guy was like, "Well, do you want to go to university, blah, blah. What do you actually really want to do?" And I'm like, "That's what I really want to do." But to him, it was the most fucking stupidest thing he's ever heard in his life. But, look at Eddie O, look at Frank Warren, right? Look at, all these, they've all made millions and millions of pounds out of that business. So there's nothing stupid about it or dumb about it. It was just that I had more ambition than he had. And, when I was in the Leavers Assembly, one of the guys said, we've had lots of people telling us what they want to do when they leave school, and some of them are the most ridiculous things we've ever heard. And it was like, okay. And then he read my one out, and I just looked at him and I just thought, you're a teacher for school, right? You're probably going to be a teacher until you die, right? And your achievement is teaching people, not doing stuff, right? And I think what in my opinion should happen in education is people should be encouraged. If you're academic, go to university, become an engineer, become a accountant. If you're that way inclined. If you're more creative, or you're more people, or you're a hard worker, you just need people to sort of identify that and push you in that direction and say to you, if you want to do anything, you can achieve it. And people always go, "Oh, it's easy for you to say, blah, blah, blah." But I come from a council estate with nothing. Nobody give me a handout, nobody give me anything. I did it all myself, right? So anyone who goes, "Oh, it's all right for you," it's not all right for me. I've had to go out and get it. No one's giving it to me. And if you speak to any people that, working class, and sometimes, you get upper class people or middle class people who don't have a silver spoon in their mouth, and they don't get given a load of free stuff and, a credit card, and mummy and daddy buys them a house and all this. They don't get any of that. right? But just because they're upper class, they went to a nice school, doesn't always mean that they're super privileged, right? So then sometimes those people have to go out and work and achieve as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably harder for them because obviously you assume that because that person has gone to a private school, or that person speaks in a certain way or comes from that family, that, you know, that they live a privileged life. And, you know, there is no such thing, you know, unless somebody just gives you everything. Most people have to work. Most people have to go out and create something. And I think even if somebody give you everything, what's the point of having it? You know, you wake up in the morning, what do you want to wake up in the morning for? What have you got to, you know, you can have anything you want, do anything you want. What's the point of waking up? You might as well just throw yourself off a bus or off a building, because there's no point in existing, because there's nothing to exist for.
No, I agree,
so I think there's got to be a reason why you want to get up in the morning. There's got to be a reason why you go to work. You know, there's been this sort of weird culture since COVID where people don't want to work and people want to live their best lives. And I talk to so many people, and, you know, I see it, especially with like younger people. A lot of the younger people are quite happy to, you know, do a little bit of work, earn a bit of money, and then go and have a laugh. Go out drinking, getting tables in clubs, going on holidays, living their best life. But they're not thinking, well, maybe I should save a bit. Maybe I should invest a bit. Maybe I should buy a house. Maybe I should get married. Maybe I should get because, you know, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to live your life. But I do think if you have a relationship, whether it's with, you know, a man and a woman, or two men or two women, I think you need to everyone should have that relationship where they've actually got somebody that they can rely on and they can work with and they can help each other. Because, you know, it's very difficult in life to do it all on your own.
Yeah, I can echo that.
Yeah. And I also think you need to have good friends, right? And it's sort of, you know, I've been through hundreds, if not thousands of friends since I was on a council estate, and some have been great, some have been bad. But I think you have to go through the process.
And it'd be there'll be people listening that have been through a similar situation to yourself. Because again, I'm from the council estate, but I won't obviously go into all of that because I've been on it on previous podcasts.
Right.
But there's a lot to dissect from what you've just said.
Right.
But I'll go back to when your mum and dad split up.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to battle with your mum telling you one thing and your dad telling you another, or to act or behave in a certain way?
Do you know something? I think one of the things that came out of my childhood was, I think I always wanted to have a perfect family. I always wanted to have the love I didn't get. So I think when you are brought up in that environment, you tend to look around and you think, I'm definitely not going to do that. And I'm definitely not going to be like you. So really, what was good about my upbringing is all the male role models in my life were people that I just wouldn't ever want to be like. You know, they were like scum, right? And that's not, you know, and I'm just being honest, right? You know, they're not people you look up to and go, oh, you know, when I go, I want to be just like my dad, or I just want to be like my mum's boyfriend. You know, it actually made me, and in a weird way, because my mum and dad split up, my dad was one of these people where he said, all religion's bollocks, you know, everything's shit, everything's crap. You know, if you said something to him you didn't agree with, you're talking at your ass. He was just very like, it was his way or no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you know, in a way, because he'd come obviously from being a butcher to becoming a regional manager, and if he hadn't have had a drinks problem, he'd have probably ended up running Tesco's, you know what I mean? But because he was so fucked up on the drink, he was, there was no sort of, that was his reality. He'd wake up in the morning, he'd go to work, he'd go to the pub, he'd get pissed, he'd come home, and he'd just repeat that. And then on Saturday and Sunday, it was like bottles of whiskey, pub, going out, just, you know, so his whole life must have just been a haze. You know, I think when they split up, what was weird for me was, he was like, if you want to come live with me, if not, live with your mum. And my mum was like, if you want to live with him, live with him, or live with me. So it was a little bit like, you know, nobody really, it was like they just didn't really give a fuck whether I went. So I didn't really feel like, but obviously I was closer to my mum than I was my dad. And I had more of a relationship with my mum. My dad, he was, you know, I never really should see him. So I just thought, what life am I going to have with him? He's just going to be pissed out of his head all the time. And I'm going to be just abandoned, basically. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go with my mum. And also my nan, who's no longer with us, but she really brought me up. So she was the one who, picked me up from school, took me swimming. So she was really like my mum, because my mum was out work. To go on holiday with my nan. So my nan really was my mother figure. And when you go back to what you were just saying about the thing, I think because my mum and dad split up and I was angry, right? Because I felt like my life had been fucked up by these people and I had no control over it. So it was sort of like nobody really, even if you don't like your dad, you still don't want your mum and dad split up. And I think it did tip me over the edge a little bit in that I just thought, well, fuck this. You know what I mean? Life's not fair. Fuck everybody. And then I started playing up at school, getting into fights, being a nuisance. And then I discovered boxing. And when I was 13, and that was obviously why I then went to that thing. And really, the boxing trainer became my father figure. The boxing club became my family. And that really was, probably... And when you're in a boxing club, you have to train. You have a fight. If you get in the ring, you're going to get smacked in the mouth. You know what I mean? So you had to have that thing where you do it and you can't fuck about. You know what I mean? And I think that gave me discipline. And it was a great saying above the ring, and it said, winners never quit, quitters never win. And I was always skipping, looking at this thing, and I was thinking, it's fucking brilliant. It's genius, that quote. I just love it. Right? And then when I actually left school and, fell into sales, I got to the point where I just passed my driving test at 17 and I got this sales job working in orders, selling TVs. And then somebody walked in one day and they had done it me. They said, I love the way you sold me these things and upsold me and blah, blah. Have you got a driving license? I was like, yeah, I just passed my test. He said, well, come work for me. So it was just a mad opportunity. And that was sort of like, wow, so I'd actually found something that I was good at, found something I liked. I didn't need to have qualifications to do it. And, I sort of excelled at it. And that sort of got me on that journey in the late 80s where I was like, I've made it. I'm going to be a sales manager. I'm going to have a company car. I'm going to get a wife. I'm going to have kids. It's going to be fantastic. And then obviously the recession come in 89, I think it was, 88, 89. Lost the house that me and my mum were in because she managed to get on the property ladder. And then it was like, lost my job. Then I was on the dole for a year trying to find, and I did all sorts of stuff. I was a dustman, a labourer. I assembled wheelie bins in a car park for 2 days. Anything to earn £1 note. And then obviously I was getting, I think back then it was £30 or £40 a week. So couldn't really live on it. So you had to do anything you could to make ends meet. The only good thing was, because my nan lived with us, we got put into emergency council accommodation. So we actually had a free house, which helped. And obviously, anybody who lives in a flat or a house that has to pay the bills and has to pay the rent and has to pay the rates and has to pay the electric and the gas, it's a lot of money, right? So if you're living with your mum and your nan, you might only be on 40 quid a week, and anything you can scratch together, there's a bit of temporary work going, but you could exist. So I think I existed, and then obviously this rave scene thing come along, and everyone was sort of like, oh, come to the rave scene, come out and dance in the field. And obviously because I was boxing, I was not interested in drugs and people going dancing in field. It was like, that's not my thing. But then I went to one after 6 months of people pestering me to go, and it was a little bit like, when people say, why did people go to these raves? Why did they like the rave so much? Why did people take drugs? The reason was because England was really shit. And it was everything's gone wrong. People losing their houses, the businesses, everyone's miserable, right? And then it's like, well, do you know what? I'm just going to go out somewhere and have some fun, right, and switch off. And I think that's why when that scene went, I think the accelerator was the fact that everything was so bad here that it was born out of recession, hard times, and everyone just went nuts. And I used to go to nightclubs probably, in the late 80s, and I'd say it was sticky carpets, pints. They had this thing called the erection section. Which was, which now, the DJ would be cancelled for doing that, right? Yeah. But that was the thing, if you wanted to meet a girl, you'd have to go to a nightclub. And you'd have to like walk around all night, smiling at everybody, buying them drinks or having a drink, trying to be cool. Yeah. And then once you sort of saw who you wanted to chat up, you wait till the erection section come on, and then you roll up and go, you know, hey, do you want to have a dance? I mean, it's so cheesy. I mean, you know, it makes me cringe just talking about it, but that was what it was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you got lucky, you leave the club with a girl. If you didn't get lucky, you go and have a kebab, or you have a fight, or you be sick or whatever. And that was just the Friday and Saturday nights growing up, you know, when you're 18. And when I found the rave scene, if you're walking into a venue with like thousands of people, or one of these outdoor things with thousands of people, everyone's your mate. All the girls come up going, oh, hi, how you doing, bro? Come and have a dance. And at the time, you're like, wow, you know, I love this. There's no trouble. There's no alcohol. Everyone's being friendly, and all the girls are chatting you up. So it's like, where do I sign, you know? So, but then obviously I realised pretty quick it was because they was all off their heads on drugs. But that really got me into that scene. And then I started giving out flyers, selling tickets, and I did a magazine, and I started putting on events. So that period of time was probably over 3 or 4 years. So it wasn't an overnight thing. But
I mean, you skimmed over that bit pretty quick as well, weren't you?
Yeah, but it was just literally like, you know, you're in somewhere, and I think this was, I think the site, when you look at your life, right, the boxing gave me the discipline, the sales gave me the thing where I can look people in the eye and have a conversation with them, and have a laugh with them, right? So that was a skill that I had, but I didn't know I had until I actually did it, and then they said, well, you're a natural at this, and obviously I'm not really that shy. Right, so if I want to go up to someone and speak to them, I'll go up to them and speak to them. And obviously, a lot of the salespeople would judge people when they come on this floor. He ain't got any money, she ain't got any money. You know, waste time. I just talk to anyone. And I do the most sales. But that was just because I'm just thinking, if you're actually bothering to come to the top floor of this shop and you're walking around looking at this stuff, you're either stupid, right, I'm wasting time, or you're going to buy something. And there was more people that were coming there to buy something, because it's, you know, you don't really go up 5 floors to walk around a radio and television department unless you're going to buy something. And that was my logic. So I just spent all my time just talking to anyone. And then some people would waste your time. Some people just, and then you get nutters that come and look at stuff and then they want to have a conversation. But the majority of people were there to actually buy something. And, you know, I enjoy connecting with people. I enjoyed selling the products. And that gave me that sales thing. And then I think when I went into the club scene, I thought, I like this, but I couldn't afford to go out because obviously I was on the dole. Then it was like, well, how can I make the money to do this? And it was like, walk out the club, someone's giving out flyers. Have you got any jobs? You know what I mean? Yes. How much you pay? This. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, you look at the flyer, and then on the back of the flyer, there's no one selling tickets in Berkshire. Well, I live in Bracknell. Berkshire's a big place. Ring them all up. Why don't you put me on as a ticket tout? I'll sell you tickets. I know loads of people. So that was the entrepreneurial side. But the thing is, again, nobody told me at school, you know, you can be an entrepreneur. You don't have to get a job. You don't have to go down this path where, you know, you work in an office and hopefully one day you'll be an office manager and you'll be, you know, nobody actually said, if this stuff doesn't tick your boxes, you could be an entrepreneur. What's that? Well, it means that, you know, you make opportunities and you make money out of the opportunities, and you know, you can do anything you want and you can achieve anything you want. And then if somebody had said that to me at school and said, like, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can either be a sole trader or you can be a limited partnership. This is how you do it, and this is what you need, right? They could have actually put it all in a A4 pack and give it to you. It's not complicated, right? And that would have saved me a load of aggravation
and tax
and tax and problems, and you know, everyone would be equipped. And I think if you put that in people's heads that they can do that, there's probably going to be more entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs are what drive the country, right? People that go and sit in an office and work in an office environment, they do drive the economy. But the thing is, it's the people that are actually going out there generating wealth and creating opportunities. And then they can say to people, do you want to come work with me? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And obviously I felt like what came out of the 80s recession was a nation of entrepreneurs, a nation of people that wanted to do well, a nation of people that wanted to own their own homes, a nation of people that, you know, aspired to doing something good, you know?
Well, it was, but it was also the other people that took full advantage of the rave scene.
Yeah.
People that, I wouldn't say you've associated yourself with, but have had some association with.
Right.
Carlton Leach being one.
Right.
My own dad being another.
Right.
What are your thoughts on people like that took advantage of the drug scene?
Do you know something? It's difficult because I was putting on events, right? I was always anti-drugs, right? So I'm a promoter, right? I'm putting on these events for 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. So I can't have any association with anybody that does any of that. I can't condone it in any way. And yeah, we had drugs dogs. We had, I mean, the searches when people would come in the rave, they would take the trainers off. They would, the girls would have their bras felt, and they would have, everyone had to have a proper search. Mainly because we were worried about people bringing weapons in, but obviously we also wanted to stop drugs. And what always shocked me is when you went into these raves, right, everyone would be off their heads, and you'd be like, how are they getting it in, right? And the only way they could have got it in is either the person running the club was at it, or the in-house security team was at it. But the thing for me was, I just looked at it and I just thought, if it is the owner of the club or the in-house security team, right, that's on them. It's nothing to do with me. You know, if I saw somebody openly selling drugs in one of my raves, they'd have been gone, right? And, you know, we had zero tolerance with any of it, because I just thought, you know, there was a period of time, and I can't remember exactly when it was, but there was, when that Lear Betts obviously died on the ecstasy thing, you know, people were getting sick on these things. And I'm just thinking, the last thing I need is somebody fucking dying on a knee in my rave, and then saying, well, it's your fault because you're the promoter. So that's why I took it very seriously. And you know, I think when you get these characters, there was a dark side to the rave scene, and what I did was I just employed some ex-special forces guys. I had my own security people, and we were just like, we're not paying anybody off. We're not interested in drugs. We're not interested in gangsters or any of that stuff. We're just going to do our own thing. But if you come to us, we will have it with you, right? And a couple of times people did try it, and obviously if you've got, you know, 8 or 9 ex-special forces guys, I mean, they can really have it, right? And people would just see when it went off, and they would be like, fuck that, we don't want to, you know. So we did have trouble, but we didn't, I would say probably out of all the events that were going on, we probably had the less trouble. And it was just done because bear in mind, I was a kid, right? So I'm a 20-year-old kid, right, putting on raves. Right?
Well, I mean, you can listen to one of the other episodes you've done, and the trajectory that you've been on from when you started to where you are now, from when you got mobbed by 1,000 people in a car park.
Right. Selling tickets, yeah.
Selling tickets.
But people told me, they said to me, you're going into London, and people always say, who's this kid out of London who's coming in and taking their money? People used to say that in London. Who is this kid? Right? Because I was a kid, right? And someone said to me, you know, if you're not careful, you are going to get turned over, right? So make sure, you know, you get a few people that you can rely on. And obviously, you know, you can hire, you know, the guy down the gym, the bodybuilder, you can hire the doorman who can have a row in Bracknell, but you need like a high level where if samples are going out, they're not going to run away. Do you know what I mean? And they've seen it, done it. They've got the T-shirts. They've been, you know, to Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever. Do you know what I mean? They've been there, seen it, done it. So if some kid wants to have a punch up, or 10 kids want to come and rush the door.
No, I think it's important for people to recognise that although you've been on the rave scene, this is the point I want to get across to anyone that's listening, there was a dark side.
Oh, really dark. Yeah.
But the people that want the quick win, the instant cash that people do now, like you just alluded to, that in business they'll earn that 10 grand a month. It don't mean that you're earning that every single month. Right. That happened back then. But look where they are now in comparison to yourself.
Well, I think I always done things properly, and you know, and I remember, like, because a lot of these rave promoters would be party people as well. They'd put on a big rave, they'd make some money, and they'd just go on a bender for like 4 or 5 weeks, and then they'd run out of money and go and put another rave on. So they never put anything by. They didn't pay any tax, and then some of them would just literally keep. They wouldn't pay any, they just had the cash. So they have like 200-300 grand just sitting in their house.
I suppose it did happen really until COVID, didn't it?
What's that?
That happened. Like people were putting these events on, and then when COVID hit, it was just.
Well, I think that did end the club scene. And what was interesting was I always used to, because back then there was credit cards. There was a thing called Ticketmaster, which is still going now, and you can still pay. But the majority of the money that we had was cash, right? So what we would do is, obviously the record shops would sell the tickets, so they would have cash. And then obviously on the night, the cash we had, we'd pay all the DJs. So there was never any period of time where I was sitting there going, I've got a load of cash, right? But any cash I did have, I always used to put it in the bank. And people always used to say to me, are you fucking mad? Why are you doing that? You got to pay tax on it. I was like, I know. And they're like, why do you want to do that? And I said, because I want to buy a house, I want to buy a car, I want to go on holiday, and I don't want to be, if you've got 200 or 300 grand in cash in your house, and the police come around or the HMRC come around, what do you say to them? Oh, it was money from the rave, and it's like, oh, do you know what I mean? So for me, I was just like, and it's an old saying, right? If you pay tax, it's God's way of telling you you're doing something right. So I was just literally. That was always my thing, and I was always, because it was the rave scene, I was always paranoid that if I had cash in my house, somebody would find out where I live, and then I'd have people come in through the door, whenever. And I also thought, I don't want to have trouble with the authorities. You know what? I'm just going to put it in the bank, pay the tax on it. If someone comes around my house, I come around my house, but there's nothing here for them to take anyway. And I get a tax bill, and it makes me feel sick every year, but I can go to sleep at night knowing, and if I want to go out and buy that, I can buy it, and I haven't got to worry that someone's going to go, where did you buy that from? Do you know what I mean? So I think all of that stuff in the rave scene, and it was like the Wild West. There was people doing all sorts of things, and you always heard about the Essex Boys, you always heard about the Footsoldier Vengeance, you always heard about all these characters. They're going to come and tax you, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, blah blah. But I can honestly say, never happened to us. We had one guy say once, you got to pay if you come here, and we was like, we're not going to pay. Do you know what I mean? And then that was it. And he actually came on the night and said, I was only mucking about and all that. And I was like, well, I will pay somebody to deal with you rather than give you a penny. So that was always my thing. I'm not one of these. I might only be like a kid, but I will actually. I've got some people around me who I'll just say, that's the guy, do you know what I mean? And they go and grab hold of him. And that was, I never did that, but it was always there. So I suppose really in my 20s, I mean, I was probably quite fearless. But I also think, because of the way I was brought up, and nothing to lose. Right, you've got nothing to lose. You don't care. Yeah. And most people wouldn't have the balls to just go into London and start putting on big raves and go, I don't give a fuck. And then people started saying to me, well, you should give a fuck because you might have a problem. And I was like, okay. And because I lived near Aldershot, obviously the parachute regiment's in Aldershot. So I've got a few guys at the parachute regiment, and then they knew people who was in the SAS, and then a lot of them had come out. And then there was a martial arts school that I belonged to, and then there was a couple of guys there that were like third, fourth dans. They were up for it. Do you know what I mean? So we had a real combination, but they was all, could all handle themselves, and they were all loyal. And I think if you're doing something like that, where anything can happen, you need to have loyal people around you to watch your back and make sure you get home all right. And if there was a problem, they're going to be standing with you.
And it did go belly up, didn't it?
Touch wood.
nothing yet. And hopefully it don't. But it did go belly up in Millennium, didn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, again, if you bear in mind, at that point, I was an award-winning club promoter. I was doing 15 to 20 events a month all around the world, and it was actually getting to the point where every year I was having a conversation with myself saying, I want to sell this. I want to get out of this now. It's just, once you've achieved, it's just a job. You do the event, you get the money, you put it in the bank, you pay the tax, you do the event. And it just felt a little bit like I was on a treadmill. And somebody said to me, the Millennium, it's going to be the biggest party ever, blah, blah, blah. And we had every single club in London say to us, do you want to, do our club, blah, blah. And I said to my partner at the time, who's dead now, Jason Kay, he died, a couple of months ago, just natural causes. But, he was so young. And we had a conversation and said, look, we can have every club in London, right? All the big clubs. If what they're saying is true and we can sell these tickets, we could make, £500,000 £1 million in a night, right? So if we don't do it and everyone else does it, we're going to be sick, right? But it could go the other way where no one goes out. And I said, maybe we should do New Year's Day and just do it's a new dawn, it's a new day, start the Millennium, and charge 15, 20 quid. And that was my initial view on it. And he was like, no, we should do it. Let's throw the dice. If it don't work out, don't work out. And then I started ringing up DJs, and it's like, oh yeah, I want 10 grand an hour, and I want this, and I want that. And the venues are like, well, we need this, we need that. Oh, there's going to be a millennium bug. You need a generator. I mean, it was just silly. It was just bullshit, right? But everybody talks themselves into, we're all going to get rich on the millennium. And obviously, leading up to it, the tickets were slow. And people still paid. We still had people there, but we didn't have as many as we needed to make money. And I remember like ringing up the DJs and the MC saying, look, guys, I know you wanted 10 grand an hour, but we haven't sold enough tickets. So you're going to just get your normal money. What? And it was like the backlash. It was like, it was my fault, and it's like, well, if they thought you were worth the money, they'd pay it and I'll pay you what you want, but they don't. So, I'm losing money. You're losing money, but you're not really. You're still getting what you normally get. And I said, how many times do I book you a month? You're getting 10, 15 bookings a month off me. So I'm paying for your fucking house. So look after me. You know what I mean? I've got it's one night, you walked in there, there's 300 people in there, there's normally 3,000. You just go, do you know what, Tel? Don't pay me anything because of our relationship, because of all the stuff. But I still wanted to pay what they normally got. And they still moaned. So out of them, there was a few people that really kicked off. I never worked with them again. There was I'd say probably 80% of them were actually all right. And they were like, you know what? So a couple of them said, don't pay me anything. And then a few of them said, just pay what you want to pay me, And but again, you can be up there and then you can be brought down there pretty quick. And that really was that thing, even when you know what you're doing and you're an expert in your field, you can still get it wrong.
And then eventually you did sell the business.
3 years after that, yeah, I think we come back, we recouped the losses, which took about 6 months, 7 months, and then I think the whole where you're seeing a lot of the problems now with the knife crime and the gun crime and people getting mugged and really bad stuff happening. Back then, that was the start of it, and I think what happened was you had a lot of people. And obviously, all the crews started up. So you had like the So Solid crew, you had the Heartless crew, you had the Pay As You Go crew. We'd already been through the jungle thing in the 90s, which was lots of gun crime, lots of yardies, lots of aggravation, right? And, it did bring in, I think a few
that's
things.
from looking after Romeo.
Right.
If I got a bottle straight across the head.
Right. But I think a few of the problems started when the jungle music came in. It used to be like happy hardcore, rave music. Everyone was happy. Everyone was taking it. It was all great. And then obviously, then the drum bass come and then it went a bit more serious. And then I think it was around 97, 98, the jungle music started, the crew started. So all this, so the music changed, the drugs changed. People then started, smoking crack and sniffing coke. So it become a little bit more moody. And then I think essentially what happened is that drew in different people. And then when the different people come in, they started looking around going, we can make some money here, right? And then they started mugging people. They started popping all the cars outside the raves. So obviously all the security costs went up. And then people were regularly pulling guns out on people and shooting people and letting off gunshots and all sorts. And I think what happened was the authorities just went, we're not having this. And the clubs were put on notice, look, if you have one of these nights, you can't have these DJs, because they associated some of the acts and some of the crews and some of the DJs with the trouble. And obviously if you've got a North London crew and a South London crew and someone from Manchester and someone from Liverpool and someone from Nottingham, all in the same place, they're all going to...
It's not good for business, is it?
It can all kick off, right? So I think that obviously was an issue. And I just think it got to the point where I think it was either 2001, 2002, where the authorities were literally, they give the clubs a list. Don't put these people on. Don't do these nights. Or we're going to take your license away, or your license may be at risk. So obviously, if you own a nightclub and you rent it out once a month to a rave promoter, you're like, do I really want to lose my license? It's not worth it. So then you'd have conversations where they'd be going, of course you can do a rave, but you can't put on the flyer about garage. You can't have the So Solid crew. So it was as if you're a creative person, you want to put an event on, and there's someone you can't really do what you want to do. You got to do what we want, and then obviously what they wanted didn't work, so it became harder to sell out the events. And I think a lot of the clubs that were great clubs like Coliseum in Vauxhall, Club UN in Tottenham, the Island in Ilford, all of these places started to get redeveloped into flats or offices or whatever. And obviously, if you're in a club and someone comes in and goes, "I'll give you treble your money," you just go, "All right." Do you know what I mean? But then obviously there was a lack of venues, so there was only a handful of venues towards the end of 2002, and it was becoming really challenging to A, make money, and B, do what you want to do. So I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to sell this, because I was at the top and I managed to get good money for it. And that obviously gave me the opportunity when I stopped to actually have a year where I could sort of find what I wanted to do. And it gave me the backing so I could back myself. I didn't have to starve or go and get a job, which was useful. So I'm grateful for the rave scene, and I think, like you said, a lot of the unsavoury characters that were around, some of them have written books, some of them have done that, but the majority of people that were either criminals or, took advantage of people or whatever, a lot of them haven't got anything, because, all the people I know that have ever gone down that path, whether it's addiction, whether it's selling drugs, whether it's crime, they don't ever have a happy ending. Do you know what I mean? They always end up losing everything, going to jail, getting shot, getting killed. There's no upside to being involved in that life. Do you know what I mean? And and that's why I always avoided it. I've been in the club scene, being on an estate. Obviously, you meet so many people that are going down that path, and you do want to say to them, there's no value in going down that path. There might be short term, but medium to long term, you're going to either be in jail or you're going to end up, getting seriously injured,
and being bitter.
Yeah, well, look at that girl in I think it was Liverpool, right? She went out on Christmas Eve for a drink, and someone was trying to kill somebody there and just machine gun the thing.
Yeah.
So innocent people have got murdered because you've had a beef with somebody or whatever, and now, unfortunately, it's a lot more serious now than it was then. I mean, it was bad then, but
it happens all the time now.
Now it's I mean, you're always hearing about people getting turned over in Mayfair, in Knightsbridge. I mean, it seems that if you go to what we used to call the hood, right, you're okay. But if you go to Knightsbridge, Chelsea, or Hampstead, and you walk anywhere nice, you're more likely to get your watch taken off, or have get mugged or have a problem. So.
I mean, it leads me nicely on to what you've done next, which would be EastEnders.
Well, no. So what I did was, a friend of mine did a film and just rang me up and said, "Oh, do you want to be in a film?" I was like, "Yeah, all right." And I didn't even know I've never done any acting, so it was just a bit of a laugh. And then I think from there, I did this film, met some proper actors that have been in EastEnders, The Bill, Snatch, whatever, and they were going, "Oh yeah, we should do this." So I was like, "Well, how do I become an actor?" So we've already done your first job, so you just get some pictures done and get an agent. And so obviously I went into it thinking, "Oh, this is easy. I'll be in Hollywood next week," and then obviously then you do it and you realise actually no, you've got to then learn how to act. You've then got to do the work. Then you've got to do the auditions, and 90% of all actors are unemployed. So if I'd have known that then, I probably would have gone, it's not for me. But I think because I got, there's a book, really good book called The Luck Factor. And I read the book because someone said read it, and it made me laugh because it was like my life, right? So it's like you get opportunities to do things. And the biggest problem with people in general is they don't take them because they're worried. They're like, if someone says, "Do you want to be in a film?" It's like, "Well, I've never been an actor before. I don't like the camera, or I'm shy." Do you know what I mean? But if they did it, they might actually find something. Well, actually, I quite like this, or I've got an actual talent. Same with singing, same with dancing, same with anything. Some people, if you think the way technology is now, if you have got a smartphone, you could become a top comedian by just telling jokes, being funny and posting it on social media. Someone could see it and go, this guy's amazing. Yeah, we want to sign you up. We're going to give you a tour. We're going to put you in a movie. Anything could happen, right? And that's a beautiful thing about now compared to then. Back then, you had to work hard. You had to really graft for it. Now, if you strike it lucky on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, make a lot of money. So I think when you read this book, it's like if you get offered an opportunity, take it. And what you'll find is that you'll get a bit of luck. Right?
It brings me nice on to what you've previously said about June Brown, Dark Cotton.
But the bit of luck then goes, right? So you get the bit of luck and go, right, I'm in, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's like you have a reality check from the universe and they say, it isn't easy. It's actually really hard. That would just give you a taste. If you want this, you've got to graft. And it could be a year, it could be 10 years, right? But there's no time on it. You just got to work hard, right? And then if you put the hours in, you give it your all, you'll get there. But lots of people, A, won't take the opportunity, B, they give up. So they do it and then just go, after a year, not do it anymore. And then obviously they give up. And that's the everybody I know says you have to be tenacious, you have to be persistent, you have to, be resilient, you have to have thick skin. People say you're rubbish. People say, people feel like they can come up to you on social media and say, I don't like you. You're an idiot. You're ugly. You're fat. You're whatever. And you sort of think, who are these people? Do you know what I mean? They're like nobodies, right? But they feel that on social media they can spend all day just going around mugging people off and nothing's going to happen. And I know somebody actually found out where one of them lived and went and knocked on his door and said, if you got something to say to me, come out and say it. And the guy was going,
But how do you deal with that? Obviously, because you've done quite a lot of films, we can talk about that. But how do you deal with that?
I don't deal with it. I ignore it because I used to buy it. I used to be like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Get a life, right? But then people say, if you do that, people, it gives them pleasure. They want you to buy it. They want you to get annoyed. They want to feel that they've said something to you that's upset you. And it's a weird world we live in that people actually enjoy that. All I want is people to do well and have a nice time. I don't actually wake up in the morning and get my phone out and go, who can I upset today? I know I'm going to go on social media and just send people random messages and put all these stupid comments up, everyone said to me, don't read them, delete and block them. And, don't buy it. What's the point? Why do you, if it was somebody that you respected and they sat down with you and said, look, I think this thing you've done isn't that great. And I think if you did this, it'd be better. You would say, do you know what? I really appreciate your constructive criticism. I'm going to take it on board and I'm going to do that. Because most people who are entrepreneurs or business people, they want to achieve. They want to, if they're doing something wrong and someone can tell them how to do it right, they want someone, that people want feedback. People want constructive criticism. But someone just saying something, oh, you're an idiot or you're this or you're that. And you just think, well, you've got 3 followers. You probably live at home with your mum. And, you spend all day, or well, maybe not all day, but most of your life, whenever you've got time, just to troll people. And you just think, what a sad life you have. Do you know what I mean? That you aren't actually going, well, rather than doing that, I'll do something positive and constructive and then achieve something great. And for me, genuinely, if I met somebody and they said, I hate your films, I fucking hate you as an actor, I go, okay, fine.
Don't watch the film.
I don't care. It's your opinion. You know what I mean? There's millions of people that watch my films, right? There's millions of people around the world that watch their films, right? So if you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. It's not going to make any difference in my life, right? Whether you like me as an actor, whether you like the films I make, whether you hate me, I don't care, right? And the thing is, I think that people think that you do care. There's a lot of, but again, because I was brought up in the 70s, people used to get terrorised at school, were called all sorts of names. They had fucking dog shit put down their back. They got kicked up the arse. They got traumatised. Do you know what I mean? Name calling. Your mum's this, your dad's that. Literally, it was like you go to school, and from when you go to school to you come home, you're getting terrorised. And then sometimes when you left school, there'd be 3 or 4 geezers waiting up the road to give you a kick in, So if you go through that thing, it's not a great way to be brought up. but it does make you resilient.
Got a thick skin.
So then and you know, and I think that's one of the things that's wrong with the world now. All the resilience is gone. Everyone's offended about everything, and everyone feels like they should be offended about everything. So all you see is people complaining and moaning. It's like the world's gone in on itself. And rather than them actually going, right, guys, you know, what are we doing today? What can we do that's positive? It's like, oh, I mean, a friend of mine, right, owns a chain of hotels, right? And at his Christmas party, he had a DJ playing pop songs, rap music, whatever, right? And 3 members of his staff wrote to the HR department and said that they were triggered and they've got emotional stress from one of the records the DJ played because it had this word in it. And you sort of think, if you're at a Christmas party and you're drinking alcohol and you're meant to be having fun, you know, the music's on Apple Music, the music's in the charts. It's not, you know, he's not playing it to upset you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but people are actually taking it that far, and people are saying, oh, you know, I need a couple of days off because of that, because the DJ Pat said that word. And you're like, honestly, it actually makes me despair, because when something actually bad happens to these people, how are they going to deal with it? Because that is just, it's like people are looking for stuff to be offended or upset by. And the thing is, you know, I understand that, you know, where we are now isn't where we are. You know, if you look at 1970 and you look at 2023, the whole world has moved on, right? But the thing is, you know, there was great things growing up in the 70s. And as an old fogey now, I look back on it and I just think, and I've just seen it going like that, and I just don't get why people are allowing this to happen. It's not, I don't think it's good for the country, personally.
No, I completely agree with it. Even though I wasn't born in the 70s, you can see even people of my age, 30, that haven't been through some kind of hardship. You don't have to go through hardship or just work, graft.
Listen, there's nothing great about going through hardship. You know, if someone said to me, "Oh, did you enjoy growing up on a council estate and going through your experiences?" I would have said no, right?
I don't
but
think it's
I look
hardship.
back on it and I just and it's like my first job was in McDonald's, right?
Yeah, same.
I remember cleaning the toilets. I remember cleaning the bins. I remember walking up and down the high street in a jacket with litter patrol on, and people going, "Oh, you this, that, and the other." Pick up the litter, everyone ordered and all that.
Yeah.
And I just thought, if I can do this, I can do anything.
I was on lobby was my first. But the thing is, McDonald's gives you discipline.
But that's another thing, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's about working as a team.
Yeah.
You all work together. You all work hard.
And you get a star.
You get a star, and then, you know, you get free McDonald's.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I look back at all that stuff, though. You know, there's things that I look back on that I wish hadn't have happened, and there's things that I look back on that I wish I hadn't have gone through.
Yeah.
But then when you look back on them, you go, well, all of these things have actually led me to where I am now. So you can't really look back on anything negatively, because you go, well,
exactly.
It might have been negative, but it might have been positive. You only think it's negative at the time, but then when you actually get to the other end, you consider positives. But and that's one of the big things. You know, there's lots of people I know over the past 10 years that have gone through tough times. COVID was obviously, you know, really tough for a lot of people, because being told you can't go out your house, you've got to sit indoors. And you know, when you look back on it, you know, bits of it made me laugh. You got to wear a mask standing up, but when you sit down, you can take the mask off. It's like, what difference does it make? Right? When you go in the shop, you know, people were bringing their groceries home and sitting there with disinfectant, cleaning the and you just, I remember at the time just thinking, this is mad, right? But obviously you're living through it and you just go, well, this is the reality. But looking back on it now, I just think it's potty, the whole thing. There was nothing.
Just a data collection. Yeah.
There was nothing about it that I'd look back on and think, but then, you know, I understand, right, why they did things. But then if you look back on what happened, all the places that didn't follow the stringent rules and didn't lock down and didn't do these things, you know, they're still, there was less deaths, right? There wasn't excess deaths. And you think, well, you know, and what I took from it was there's people that I know that got COVID and they were fine. There's other people that got COVID and they was really ill. Some people I know got COVID and they died, right? So I'm not saying it wasn't real. It was definitely real. But I just think that the reality is every single person got it, right? So whether you stayed in your house with a mask on and didn't leave your house, or, you know, you followed the rules, people still got it. Yeah, my mum is asthmatic. She's in her 70s. She's excess weight because she kind of, her hips are gone, yeah? So she's registered disabled. But, you know, she was worried about it. She said, if I get it, it's going to kill me, right? And she took, I mean, she had gloves on, mask on, driving down the road, right, in a car on her own, right? She was petrified about it. She still got it. And she was all right. And I said, well, you know, at least you've had it, Mum, so you know, right? But she took every precaution. So for me, it's like everyone's going to get it anyway. So if you rewind to when Boris Johnson said, let's not lock down, let's just let it rip, let's just see what happens. If we'd have done that, we probably wouldn't have all the inflation and all the aggravation we got now. There probably wouldn't have been a lack of stuff, which is obviously driving inflation. And, you know, lots of people, I mean, the mental health, I mean, you know, I remember seeing my kids, you know, sitting on a computer all day trying to do their work.
Simple, yeah,
And you know, and then after that, it's like, well, what are we doing now? We'll have something to eat and watch telly, shall we?
Yeah.
Or we'll go for a walk. But it was just, you know, it was a miserable. I mean, the only blessing was obviously when the first lockdown happened, the sun was shining from March to September. So that it was like being on, you know, in England when the sun's shining, it's the best place in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. I know. Obviously, we've got all your films to mention, but you've got one that you've recently released today, trailer coming out.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the new film where the trailer dropped today was Rise of the Footsoldier Vengeance, and that's number 6 in the series. And obviously there's a computer game and there's 6 films now, and then we're already talking about doing Rise of the Footsoldier Ibiza, and then doing some other spin-offs. So I think, you know, again, I think Rise of the Footsoldier as a brand is a great brand. I think for all the people that love it, there's probably a few that hate it, but, you know, it's fun. It's the only British true crime film franchise in England. So, you know, long may it continue, you know, and I think if I look back on all the films that I've made, the true crime element always seems to resonate. And you know, if you actually look at Netflix, you know, what made Netflix successful, it was Breaking Bad, it was Narcos, it was, you know, Gomorrah. So I think a lot of these, you know, crime-related documentaries, films, TV shows, people have got massive interest in them. And I haven't told you this, so I'm going to break the news today. I'm actually doing my own podcast.
Oh, brilliant.
And it's called The Criminal Connection. And we're launching that in September. And that's going to be, I'm going to be hosting it, but we're going to be talking to actors that play well-known criminals in films. We're going to be talking to writers who have written, you know, famous authors basically in crime. We've got the leading King's Counsel that's done £1 billion drug trafficking trials. You know, we're going to get him on there.
Brilliant.
We've got, you know, real criminals, you know, not people with free teeth saying they knew the craze, actual proper criminals that are either reformed or, you know, well, most of them have either done their time, but a lot of them, we're not interested in talking to the people that have been on all these podcasts because there's no value in just talking to the same people about the same stuff. So we're looking for people that haven't been on the podcast and that have an interesting story. And we have got 4. We got one guy who's actually on his deathbed who basically said, you know, I want to do a book, I want to do a film. But he said, I've not said anything because, you know, I wanted to wait till I was gone. But he's going now. So he said, look, if you can come and film in my house, we can do it. And I was like, wow, you don't get that access. You don't get an access to the leading King's Counsel. Do you know what I mean? So we've managed to get hold of some really interesting guests. So, you know, that's going to be interesting. I've always liked the idea of podcasts. I've always enjoyed doing them, but I've never actually I thought they've all been done. But then when I got chatting to this company in the city, they was like, well, nobody's done this. And I was like, you're right. So let's do that, you know.
Cool, and I think one of the most impressive things I think that you've done, that I can see your brain is constantly ticking. It's like, what do we do? How can we improve? Is you're building a community, or you've built a community in every single business venture that you've done.
Right.
And you're looking to build that into every brand and then look to sell and not give everything away to Amazon and Netflix. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. So you know, we
Cut out the middleman, basically.
what happened? But it was probably September 20. I think it was September 22, right? Was it 22 or was it 21? Do you know, I can't, it was around that
September.
it was September 21. It was September 21, yeah. And Footsoldier just come out, and obviously I've noticed Footsoldier Origins would, you know, that was the last one, and I noticed that everything felt like it's going digital. You know, when you deliver stuff to the cinema now, you upload it on a server. In the old days, it was like, there's a reel, there's the poster. You know, now it's just press a button and it all just goes. And I just thought, everything's going digital. And I did look at cinema and I thought, the cinema hasn't got long left, right? And people are always like, no, everyone likes going to cinema. I love going to cinema. But I just think the days of going to a multiplex and there's 10 movies being played and it's just rotating weekly. I mean, it's not come back since COVID.
Well, they're all in debt now, aren't they?
Yeah, and the problem, and I think the problem is, right, I remember seeing somebody, and I can't remember when this was, but they had a smartphone and they were watching a film, and I remember walking past them, and I really wanted to just smack them around the ear and say, "What are you doing? How can you enjoy that? It's stupid. Watch it on a proper TV or a proper screen." But then, obviously, the smartphones got bigger, the iPads come, and now everybody, you know, like my kids will look at an iPod or an iPad and they don't want to go to the cinema, right? And that's what's coming, right? So you sort of think, if the kids are now not interested in the cinema and you have to drag them kicking and screaming, that's not great for the cinema, because it means in 5-10 years' time, the next lot of kids are going to be, you know, in the metaverse or whatever. They're not even going to be interested in the cinema. So I just saw the shift going. So what we did was, somebody said to me, we should look at doing a cryptocurrency. So we come up with this idea. You know, we do this thing called Film Coin, right? And we use that. That could be the currency of the film industry, blah, blah, blah. And we also said we want to release films on the blockchain. So since then, obviously the war happened, the crypto market crashed. You know, we've been through, again, with these things, there's never a straight path. So we've gone through all of that stuff. Yeah. But where we've come out the other end, right, what's actually happened now is we've got some really good partnerships. One of them's with a company called Crypto.com, which is the biggest crypto exchange in the world. Yep. And they want to get into the film business. They want to get into, you know, property. They want to basically expand out into, you know, that they've conquered, you know, the crypto market. Now they want to start conquering other markets. That's why they're sponsoring the World Cup, Formula One, blah, blah, blah. So we basically looked at doing a digital studio, and a company in Canada has a cybersecurity software that they developed for the blockchain. So obviously with content, you're always worried that someone's going to try and steal it and illegally upload it, whatever. So we sort of come up with this idea, well, if we had that with what we're doing, and we could do something with Crypto.com, all of a sudden we got, you know, 85, 90 million users. We've got, you know, access to the cybersecurity. We've got the digital studio, so we can make content. So we just thought, this is actually great, and it just means that moving forward, we become masters of the universe, because you know, we can fund films through this model, we can release films through this model, and then cut out the middlemen. Now, obviously, at the moment, there's a writer strike, there's an actor strike, so the top tier of Hollywood is shut. So that means there's no content. Next year, there's going to be 6-7 months where there's nothing coming out, which is going to be weird, right? So I think, in a way, for us, it's good because we're independent and we're not tied to these guilds. We've now got an opportunity. So we're banging the drum saying, we've developed all this content, we want to have a chat, blah, blah, blah. We're not tied into these guilds. So that's exciting for us. But things like this new Footsoldier film, obviously, when that comes out this year, but when it goes out next year onto the Amazons, the Netflixes, the Hulus, obviously they're going to be desperate for content. So that should mean that the prices are going to go up. But going back to this digital studio, so the company's called Dark Horse. It got acquired by this company in Canada. So it's now trading on the stock market in Canada. We've now got a British company on the London Stock Exchange that's looked at what we're doing and said, this is actually genius. We think this could potentially be a unicorn, right? So we want to acquire that company and we want to, you know, basically be in business with you. So that's exciting because once we've done these transactions and we've actually, you know, got this going, obviously all the content we've developed, all of a sudden we don't need to banging on people's doors saying, can we work with you? We'd like to do a deal with you. Can we package this up? We could just use that so we're doing it for three reasons. The first one is obviously at the moment, you have to tick a lot of boxes when you're dealing with studios and broadcasters. If we've got our own platform, which we've got, you know, that's being built now. We can put whatever we like on there, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is, obviously, at the moment, right, if I do a deal with Amazon and they pay me a fixed sum of money, they give that to their customers for free, right? So, and they would never tell us how many people have watched it. So we know they've got 12 million customers here. But if I said to you as a business transaction, I'm making a film for $1 million, say, and Amazon are going to give me 250 grand for the UK streaming, you go, well, that's a good deal, you know, it's a quarter of your money back. But then if you said, well, we're going to give it away to 12 million people, you go, and when you do the maths, you're getting obviously a fraction of a penny every time someone watches it. Same with Apple Music. You know, if you're Ed Sheeran and you put your album on there and, you know, 7 billion people download it and listen to it, in the old days, he'd have had 7 billion record sales. So he'd be a billionaire. But now he's getting, I don't know, 50 grand. So and what's happened is, and it's not really the consumer's fault, because the consumers are going, wow, you know, for $4.99 I can get Netflix, I can watch all this content for free. It's a great deal. It's a great deal for them. It's a bad deal for the content creators. So the content creators, obviously, you know, they need to be paid. And I think that's why a lot of these strikes are happening, because people are saying, well, you know, you're not telling us how many people are watching it. And if, you know, if you look at Netflix as a business, they've got 230 million customers worldwide. So if they release a film or a TV show worldwide, that's a lot of people watching them.
Yeah.
And I just think, you know, for me, as a content creator, because I'm on both sides of the fence, you know, I'm an actor, I'm a content creator, you know, I want to try and get as much money for my content as possible, because it benefits the investors, it benefits me, right? So we all win. So for me, if I can come up with a way of doing it differently and disrupting the disruptors and then getting, you know, our content out there and do it, yeah, no one's done it on the blockchain yet. So if we're the first people to do this and it's a massive success, right, all of a sudden then everyone's going to go, we need to come and have a conversation with you. So that's really why we did it, you know, because we wanted to, you know, create something which future-proofed their business, but also meant that, you know, we become in charge of our own destiny. So, you know, if we can build up a big enough, and I'm sure if you look at the world, there's enough people in the world now. In 10 years ago, they wouldn't have been up for this. If I'd have said, here's the link, if you want to watch films, just click on it and press the button and pay the money, you can watch it. Now you do it, right? But 10 years ago, you'd be like, oh, you know, I don't know, I'm clicking through, what's the company, you know, it's too much aggro. But everyone's used to, you know, subscribing, putting in their details, and also people want it now. So if you say to someone, you can have it now, you haven't got a subscription charge, but you can pay as you go. So if you want to watch this film, there's a link. Makes your life simple. You go, actually, I don't want to watch it, boom. And it's the only place in the world where that content's available. So that's something that we're obviously working on. But then, you know, alongside that, what I always find funny is as you're going through life and you're talking to people about what you're doing or what you're trying to create and trying to achieve, opportunities come out. So, you know, I was talking to a stockbroker and I was saying, look, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that. And he was like, you know, sounds great. I'm really excited. I really want to get involved, blah, blah. And he said, there's something we might be able to do together, right? And I was like, oh, what's that? And it's like, you know, the vodka, right? So he come up with this vodka, right, concept. And he actually said to me, he said, he said he loves the way that some of the champagne houses have got the chrome bottles, and he said I want to do a chrome bottle, and I want to have a light in the bottom of it so it lights up, and I want to make it like a premium vodka, and also want to do it all here in the UK. And he said I also want to, build up, a new brand, a premium brand. So I got involved in that business with him, and we've only really started pushing it since January this year. But it's already, the fastest growing vodka in the UK, and it's starting to get some real traction with different people now. So, again, out of having a conversation with somebody about something completely different, that's come out of that, and then out of that, I mean, it's just crazy, right? But this is what I'm saying about opportunities, right? So, I could have said, "Oh no, I don't know anything about vodka. It's not really my thing," but because it was there, and I was thinking, what value can I deliver and I know a lot of people in clubs and in bars. I know a lot of influencers. I know a lot of famous people. I know a lot of people with money. I know, wide, great PR companies, great marketing companies, social media companies. So for me, I thought what I can deliver is I can actually add value to what you're doing. And I can help you grow something. Even if I hadn't been involved, he'd have still done it, and it's still going to be a massive success. But I think, he obviously saw something in me when we were talking where he thought, actually, this guy could be of use. And then there's another friend of mine who's got a company called Silk Executive Travel, which is, I don't know if you've seen them, they're these really nice, like Mercedes. They're like private jet vans. They're called luxury jets, and they're like all the nice, quilted seats. Yeah. It's like going in a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, basically, but a Mercedes. Yeah. And he does all these bits and pieces. And we met for a mutual friend of mine, Daniel Johnson, who I'm doing a lot of stuff with. And he said, "Oh, when you're in Marbella at the Marbella Film Festival, let me give you one of their vans. You'll love it. It'll get you picked up from the airport." So that's how I become friendly with him. And then when I was in Manchester seeing him, he said, "Do you vape?" And I was like, "Not really," but I said, "Everyone else that I know does." And he said, "Well, I've got this new vape brand, right? And we're bringing these ceramic vapes into England." And I was like, "What's the benefits of the ceramic vapes?" And he said, "Well," he said, obviously all vapes have got bad stuff in them, just like cigarettes, just like alcohol, right? There's nothing, if you smoke it, you're not going to become healthy. But he said, obviously what we wanted to do was we wanted to actually position it so that it's growing up, right? And it's classy and it's for adults. And the ceramic vapes basically take out some of the impurities, but they mean that you get the maximum amount of puffs out of it, and the flavour's really good. So he said, again, I'm doing this, would you like to get involved? And I was like, let me have a think about it, right? So he gave me the box, and I looked at the box, and I actually, I like touching and seeing things. And if you flip that up and have a look at it from the front, Zap, baby, Zap shades. But if you lift it up at the front, and when you actually look at it, I mean, it just looks classy, and that was what attracted me to the brand. I saw it and I thought, I've never got involved in any tobacco products ever, and it actually made me laugh, because I thought, from putting clubs on and doing a bit of acting and making a few films, I'm now involved in a vodka company and a vape company. But the good thing with the vapes is, again, I just thought, how can I have value? And then I started to speak to friends, and then people were saying, "Oh, I know this retailer, this guy runs petrol stations, blah, blah, blah." So again, when you get offered these opportunities, when you actually start exploring them, it always amazes me that when you actually make some phone calls, that you can actually pick the phone up to him and he says, "Yeah, that's the guy who can put you in 10,000 corner shops. That's the guy who can put you in Tesco's. That's the guy who can put you in Shell garages." So you start thinking, wow, just through making a few phone calls, I've now, again, I can add value to it. So for me, I'm always looking at opportunities that I can add value to.
When would you say enough is enough, or is there no ceiling for you?
I don't think the problem I've got is I've got 3 kids.
I know that feeling.
And a wife, and I think I've probably got in my close friends 7 billionaires, and some are a billionaire, some are worth 4 billion, some worth 6 billion, some worth 10 billion, right? But when I've talked to them and I've spoke to them and I said, when you made your first billion, what was it like? And they've all said the same thing. They've said, when you make a billion, you can't spend it unless you're stupid, right? Or you give it away. But at that point, you get into this thing where it doesn't become about money anymore. It doesn't become about becoming a billionaire. It becomes about people. It becomes about deals. It becomes about obviously making the world a better place, and it becomes about helping others. So a lot of these people do become philanthropists because they want to help, and lots of them want to help people get off drugs. They want to help people with mental health issues. They want to invest in infrastructure. They want to help people get medical treatment. If somebody's really sick and they can't afford it, sometimes you get an anonymous donation because they can actually do it and it doesn't really change their lives, but they can help somebody else. And I thought about it and I just thought, for me, I enjoy creating stuff. I enjoy being with people. I enjoy having fun. I enjoy business, right? So, I could do 10 businesses. 5 might not work. They could all work, right? But that's the excitement. That's the fun. You put everything in, you do everything you can. And obviously the goal is to make money and to be successful. But you never know which one's going to be the big one or the small one or the lose one. So I think you have to be in it to win it. And I think, for me, I'm always open to opportunities. And I think I'm 52 now. So maybe when I'm 60 or maybe when I'm 70, I might say, do I really need all this stuff going on? But by then, my kids will hopefully have grown up and left home. So then that won't be costing me any money. But no, when I was 16, I wrote down a wish list, right? So, lots of people say, write down your wish list, write down your goals. I don't know what made me do it, but I just did it, right? And I wrote down, and I remember writing this down. I want to earn £100,000 so I can retire. That was number one. Number two, I want to buy a 3-bedroom house, mortgage free. Number three, I want to buy a nice car. It wasn't specific, but it was just a nice car because I was driving a Golden Leg. No, sorry, I wasn't driving a car then, right? But in my head, I thought, I did end up with a Golden Leg Row, right? and a Ford Escort and things like that, and a Capri, a green Capri, which was nice. But I always in my head thought, one day I want to be able to go and buy a nice car. It didn't have to be a Ferrari or Bentley. It could have just been, it could have been an XL3i. Do you know what I mean? But I just wanted to be able to get a nice car. And then the other one was I wanted to get a bar and restaurant. And then the last one, number 5, I want to be happy. That was my 5 goals at 16. I did the bar and restaurant. It was a fucking disaster, right? I think the happy bit is hard because I think I'm happiest when I'm actually doing a deal or I'm working on a business or I'm doing something, I'm making a film or I'm acting in a film. That's when I'm happy because I'm doing stuff. But I think the only time when I'm unhappy is when I'm waiting for stuff to go off or the process, when you start any business or when you begin any business, everything always takes longer than you think. You develop, I've developed scripts before. Sometimes they've happened within a year. Sometimes they take 5 years. Sometimes they don't happen at all. I mean, that's, when you're developing stuff and you're making stuff, you're doing it because you go, this is a great idea. But, right now, we've got this great movie, right? Someone said to me, this is a 15-20 million pound film, right? We can walk this into Netflix. Then there's a writer's strike. Oh, well, the writer you need to get on this, you can't use now until the writer's strike ends. And if you want to get an A-list actor, he'll be SAG. So, you got to wait for that to end. So we just got to put it on ice for 6 months till this stuff. But I think the next thing is going to be the directors are going to go on strike. So it just seems to be at the moment, if it's not the teachers, it's the doctors. If it's not the doctors, it's the railway staff. It's just like everybody's on strike. Yeah. And, I understand people want to have more money. They want better this, they want better that. But the reality is if everyone's on strike and no one's working, right, it just means that everything grinds to a halt. And on all levels, like next week, the London Underground is shut for a whole week. Yeah. So I'm not coming to London. So that means I'm not having any meetings, I'm not having any coffees, I'm having no drinks, I'm having no food, I'm not spending any money, right? I'm not the only one. There's probably a million people.
I'm the same. I'm not coming.
So you think, it's great you're doing a strike, but it's not about you. It's about the effect it has on the whole of, people driving. They're not going to drive in because they're going to go, well, why would I? Because there's going to be a million cars on the road. So I won't drive in, so they lose a congestion charge. I'm not spending any money in any of these things. So, if you've got a restaurant or a bar or a club or a shop, a corner shop, you're not taking any money. And, that to me, I don't get it. I don't have the pleasure of being able to strike, unfortunately. If I don't work, I don't get paid.
No, that's it. And I think something you just said there about happiness, and I think there's going to be a lot of people to be able to resonate. I certainly can. If you're doing what you do, doing what I do, it's a lonely road sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're doing it, and if you're surrounded with the right people, as you are,
Yeah.
And I certainly am now. I wasn't, and I've learned the hard way, and I'm sure you have as well. It's hard to get that work-life balance.
For sure, it doesn't exist.
Well, literally, I posted that today.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it doesn't exist.
No.
But if you can learn to take a breath and pause and go, right, I can recognise when I'm not at my happiest.
Yeah.
But if you're searching, this is my opinion, if you're searching for that happiness, it's not that it doesn't exist, but if you can recognise when you're not at your happiest moment, that's the most important thing. But recognise when you are happy, enjoy that moment. Yeah. Like what you've just said there.
Listen, when I actually started to make money and I was doing better than 40 quid a week or £2.65 an hour, which is what I was on at McDonald's, when I actually started making money where I could actually go, I'm actually going to go on holiday, I'm actually going to go on a plane, sit on the beach somewhere that's not in England, I'm actually going to go and buy them trainers and not have to worry about it. When I got to that point, I remember redoing my list and thinking, well, if I had 100 grand now, I can't retire on 100 grand, right? How could you? Do you know what I mean? Even if you didn't do anything, you sat in your house, just with the electric and the gas, you're going to wipe that out in a couple of years. So I looked at it and I just thought, wow, what can I, do on my list? And I wrote, and bear in mind, I hadn't done any of this motivational stuff or positive mental thinking. That didn't exist then, right? But I wrote, I will be happy when this happens. I will be happy when that happens. I'll be happy. So I was actually defining happiness with achieving stuff, right? And I wrote, I think it was 10 things, right, that I wrote down. And I remember achieving them and going, wow, I've achieved it. Oh, I really feel good. And then it's like, and it's like, okay, next one.
Next list.
Oh, wow. And I got to the end of it and I just thought, you think that thing's going to make you happy, and it will do for a moment of time. But then after that, it's like, people say, oh, I've seen this house. If I live in a 3-bed house. If I could have a 4-bed house, that'd be my dreams. And you get in a 4-bed house and you go, we're in a 4-bed house now. You know what, I wouldn't mind a 5-bed house. Or I wouldn't mind a bigger garden. Nobody is ever really happy, right? They might say they are, but I think what you have to kind of do is things don't make you happy. But I think, like what you just said, I think if you do stuff and you actually say, well, you know what? If I do this and I achieve this, I am going to be happy. But also if it goes the other way, I'm going to be unhappy that I haven't done that. But whether you're unhappy or you're happy, whether you win, whether you fail, you just have to just carry on. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think you can let your failures or your successes define what happiness is. You can't say, well, if I had 100 million in the bank, I'd be happy. And you go, oh, well, you could do anything you want. But you could, but then you're going to, the money doesn't buy, I've met people, that are rich, right? And they have problems just like everybody else. Their kids get sick. They have kids going off the rail on drugs. They have people that resent them, right, in their own family. I mean, I was actually sat in America around a table, right, with somebody who was very rich, with her friends. And we're all chatting, we're all having the best time. And then another time, some family members joined. and the vibe was really sort of just weird. And I just thought, you know, why does it not feel the same as the friends? And I actually said to her, I said, are your friends your family? And she went, yeah. She said, my family are just waiting for me to die so they can get my stuff. I was just like, fucking hell. I just thought, that is just like awful. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, but I've seen it myself. Like, you know, my mum was with a guy who, he wasn't particularly wealthy. He had his own car and he had a bit of money, but he wasn't rich. And they went on holiday together and he actually had a heart attack and died, right? So she had to fly his body back to England, right? Which is fucking traumatic. That's your husband, right? And I was actually out of the country when this happened, right? So I was like, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. And she went, look, I've got it all sorted, blah, blah. And when I come back, I went round the house to see her, make sure she's all right. She went, there's fucking people. And literally, as soon as she got actually off the plane and got back home, the son and daughter was round the house going, oh, Dad would have wanted me to have the car. What's he left me? And it's like the vultures are fucking descending. Your dad's just died. All you want to know is what you're going to fucking get. And I did actually say, you know, this happened a few times, but that really does make me feel ill. And I actually think, I hope that when my time comes, my kids aren't doing that to me, or they're not going with a calculator going, yeah, when he dies, I'll definitely have that. Hopefully, them shoes will still be all right. I'll have those, you know.
I mean, it all comes down to self-awareness. If you're self-aware, or the more you can become self-aware of what's going on around you, how you're feeling. For me, that's how you become more happy. But listen, mate, if you've got anything to say to the camera, any messages?
I just think, I think right now, the world is a crazy place. I think, you know, you've always got to look for the positives. I think, you know, in whatever you do, you know, the fact you wake up in the morning is a positive, right? Because the negative is that you're dead, right? So, I think you have to take. I think you have to work hard, and I think say yes to opportunities. Yeah, when someone brings you up and says, oh, I'm doing a dinner party, or I'm going to go out for drinks, or I'm going to meet so-and-so, I want you to meet somebody. Don't always go, oh, fucking hell, I don't really want to meet anyone else. Or, you know, someone said to me the other day, I've got enough friends, right? And I just thought, yeah, but you never know who you're going to meet. You know, you could walk into a room to meet you. I could meet you today. It could be someone sitting there and they go, oh, I've got this great story. My mate has written this book and he wants to turn it into a film, but he doesn't know any film producers. All of a sudden I'm going, I'll read the book and I'm going, great. I've now got that. Right? So, but I would never got that if I hadn't come. Do you know what I mean? So I think you never know what the universe is going to give you and when. So I just say yes to everything. And, you know, not everything's going to be, not everything's going to work. You are going to fail. You are going to fall over. You are going to have highs. You are going to have lows. But I think, you know, you just have to look at it that nothing lasts forever. And, you know, I've been through some crazy stuff, right? Some horrible stuff in my life. And you know, I've always got out the other side and I've always looked back on it and gone, you know, I didn't enjoy that process, but it's made me who I am now. So, you know.
Mate, I really appreciate that. I really do appreciate you coming on. And from where you was on the streets of South London, like you said, not the best upbringing. Yeah, he was in a rave scene. Or you started at McDonald's, ended up in a rave scene, to where you are now. Obviously, you're an owner of multiple businesses. But the most important thing is you've got the recognition to know when you're happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got a lovely family and a great support network around you. That's the most important thing. These people have got to recognise that journey, but also the fact you failed so many times and got back up.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it goes back to the winners never quit, quitters never win.
Yeah.
And Rocky's got a great quote, yeah? It's not about how hard you get hit, it's about getting up and keep going, you know? So someone could put you on your ass, but you get back up and you have another go. And I also think, you know, I think the resilience is really important. And I've actually come to the conclusion over the past couple of months that, you know, if you read too much news, if you look at too many newspapers, there's not really anything ever positive in them, right? And I actually think that if, you know, some people are resilient, but I think if you're a warrior or, you know, you let things affect you, like if someone said, oh, you know, she said you're ugly, and then you're going to be like, oh no, I'm ugly, and you're actually going to get upset about stuff. I definitely think you know, watching the news every night at 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock is, and the war, the inflation, the electricity prices, the gas prices, the recession, the this and that, it does make you unhappy. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, we could have gone into that, but
I think
that's a whole other fucking episode.
But genuinely, I genuinely think, whether it's the newspaper, whether it's social media, whether it's the news on TV, whether it's people, if any of this stuff upsets you, or if you have a friend that's toxic or is always talking shit about you or makes you feel unhappy in yourself, just lose that friend. Because genuinely, like in life, there's a lot of drains, and there's a lot of people who will smile in your face and say they want to help you and they've got the best interests up, but behind your back they're going like that, right? And as soon as I find out, just go like that, because there's people always say you can count your friends on one hand. I can actually count my friends on fucking 10 hands, right? Because I have actually got some amazing friends that I've met over the years, and I've never wanted anything from them. They never wanted anything from me. And if I see them every day for a week, we're like best mates. If I don't see them for a month, we're best mates. We don't need to be in each other's pockets, message each other, going, oh, how you doing, buddy? And all that. Oh, let's meet up. It's real friends don't need that constant attention, that constant like
validation.
Yeah, I'm your friend. I love you. I'm your friend. It's sort of like, and I think I am a good friend. So, and all the people that I am close with are the same. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you put it out there, you only want to be surrounded with good people, and you think that in your head, and you have to be like mercenary sometimes, and just and some people sort of say, oh, don't you still speak to people that you was at school with? And there's only one person that I was at school with that I talk to, and it's not because I don't like anybody. It's just because
they're not the same journey.
We're all on different, and that's something that somebody else explained to me, which I thought was profound. They actually said that when you're going through life, if you're on a journey, which everyone is, right, and you have to do things, right, people come in and come out on your journey, right, and you sort of sometimes miss people that then come out your journey because you think, I actually enjoyed being with that person or doing stuff with that person. Sometimes they die, sometimes they do something and they drift off and you're going in that direction. But I do think that you do come in and out of friends. You do. And for me, if I have a connection with somebody, I find it really hard if we do that, because I know it sounds wanky, but I do miss people. Do you know what I mean?
No, not really.
But I do think that you have to be open to new friendships, and you have to take people on face value, right? You can't, just because somebody went, oh, whatever about somebody, there's a lot of bitter and jealous people in the world, right? And people will talk shit about people and say stuff about people. And I've had it in my family where, my wife has been, friends with people for years, and then somebody in her friendship group has decided she's just going to start talking shit, and then all of a sudden it's like, you've got to get rid of that person. And it's like, well, I've been friends with them for 20 years. Well, they're not your friend. Friends don't behave like that, so just go like that, right? And I can do that. It doesn't bother me, right? But I think sometimes it's hard.
Does that come to, because I can certainly resonate with you there. My ex-wife, she said, it comes down to the trust issues that I've potentially got. I don't think I have, because I can just go, gone, you're out, next. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think I think if somebody, if you said to somebody, I've done whatever, right? I've killed my neighbour's cat because it kept me out at night, right? And you trust them, and then they go around and tell everybody on Facebook, "Oh, Terry killed the cat." Right? You're going to be like, "What? Why'd you do that?" Well, I told you that in confidence. I'm now the cat killer. Right? Yeah. But joking apart, I think it's tough, because I think people do want to share their problems, right? And obviously, if you have a problem and you sit at somebody, look, I'm really struggling at the minute, whether it's money, whether it's with your mental health. And then people are going around going, oh, you know, he's struggling, he's got mental health issues, and all that. And it's like, why would you do that? Do you know what I mean? It's just, A, it's being mean, and B, it's just talking shit about people. But I genuinely think there are people that enjoy doing that. Like the trolls, I mean, they're all on the same vibration, right? They all either like talking shit about people, or they all like sitting on social media trolling people, or in life you get people that, you know, will happily put a block in your way because they don't want to see you achieve, and sometimes you have to overcome those blocks to achieve.
Well, it's like what I said to the ex. It's obviously we've got a really good relationship because we've got 3 kids, really good relationship, but for anyone that's not coming on the journey with me, and I often say this to her, and she knows it, I'll go through them, right? Because you're not in my way.
But I think that, like, we didn't really go massively into the club scene, but throughout my whole journey, everywhere you look, people were trying to pull the rug under. They're trying to like throw something in your road. They're trying to disrupt what you're doing, you know, because people don't want you to succeed. And this country is weird like that, because if you go to Dubai or you go to America, it's all about, let's go, let's make it great, let's all make money, let's all have fun, let's all be the best we can. But in this country, it's sort of like, I don't know why, but it's, people like celebrate. They don't want people to be successful. You know, if you pull up in a new car and said, I've just done this amazing deal and I've got this new car, I'll be like, that is amazing. What was the deal? You ain't got any more, have you? Right? Can I get involved? Right? But other people will be just like, oh yeah, nice car, and they'll be like, and you just think, why don't you wish me well? Do you know what I mean? Because I think also, if you go around wishing bad shit on people, you end up getting it on yourself. So if every time someone does something well or does something nice and you're like negative, it's like you're attracting it yourself. So you never get anywhere yourself. That's why I think a lot of these trolls are sitting at home in their mum's basement going like that. You know? But genuinely, I think of the thing that I try and spread is positivity. I want people to be happy. I want people to have a laugh. You know, everyone I work with, you know, we try and have fun. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I say, I've really enjoyed this. Everything. I think you've dropped some absolute nuggets that people are definitely. I know there's a lot of viewers that obviously I personally know they're going to be able to resonate with yourself.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Winners never quit, quitters never win.
Perfect, mate. Terry, it's been a pleasure, mate.
No, thanks, mate. Brilliant.